In the book of Deuteronomy, God charges the Jewish people, "Justice, justice shall you pursue." For more than 50 years, the Religious Action Center has embodied the Reformed Jewish movement's aspiration to fulfill that commandment. From civil rights to health care, from protecting our environment to confronting bigotry, the RAC inspires and supports Reformed synagogues to be champions of justice. Launched at the RAC's Consultation on Conscience, the Urgency of Now initiative is the newest way that we are moving social justice to the center of Reformed Jewish life. Since spring 2017, more than 100 congregations and counting have signed the RAC's Brit Olam, making a covenant to protect the most vulnerable and dedicating themselves to making lasting structural change on key issues that affect our communities.
By doing what they're doing with all the immigration raids and detentions and deportations, they're not going to make our borders safer. They're not going to bring jobs back.
36 times in the Torah, we are commanded in different ways to treat the stranger with justice, with compassion, with equality. We are commanded to love the stranger and to remember that we ourselves were once strangers. The Urgency of Now Immigrant Justice Campaign provides different ways for congregations to be involved in fair immigration practices or reform. It's enabled us to be able to act powerfully with other Reformed synagogues, not only in California, but nationally, to be able to speak together in a stronger, united voice.
As a sanctuary synagogue, what are we saying? We're saying we're going to shield those people who are the oppressed. We're going to give them sanctuary in order to make sure that they get the equality.
We can't wait! We can't wait! We can't wait! We can't wait!
This is just the beginning. Yeah. The race is not over. This is not the finish line. There is much work to do. There are next steps.
Criminal justice reform is one of the most urgent issues facing our nation.
Criminal justice reform is an issue for the faith community because the importance of loving your neighbor as yourself. If we're going to preach it from our congregations, from our pulpits, we have to make sure we live it out in the world with our neighbors.
We have more young black men incarcerated at this moment than we ever had enslaved in this country.
I would encourage leaders in other cities to seek opportunities to work together. It's one thing if I say that there's racism, it's something else if he says it. And if we both say it together, it's much more powerful.
The urgency of now stresses that the status quo is unacceptable.
I got involved with the issue of transgender rights in large part because of my own need for transgender rights. For me, it was really because I knew what it was like to feel like you were out of place in the world. The Reform movement has dedicated itself to LGBT inclusion. The Urgency of Now Transgender Rights campaign is the Reform movement's current pursuit to push back against harassment and against discrimination against transgender people. We have so many ideas in our tradition about the ways that we refuse to shame people, but the ways that we choose to recognize their basic humanity, the spark of the divine that lives within them. It is an obligation upon us to ensure human dignity, and that is why this is our issue.